Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Well, today we're going to do another pistol video for you. We're going to be having a quick look at the Smith & Wesson 637 Performance Center. These small revolvers are still very popular for concealed carry. I know they are with me. When I'm trying to have the smallest, lightest thing, whether I'm dressed down or whether I don't have a lot of space to hide a larger firearm, I really look to these small revolvers quite a bit. So does the Performance Center offer anything that makes it, really that much better than a standard small revolver? Is it something that makes it better for concealed carry? We're going to go with the features, and we're going to try to answer those questions in just a minute. All right, once again, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. If this is your first time coming to the channel, or if you've been watching our videos before and just haven't had a chance to do so until now, and you like our content, please consider subscribing. You can locate that subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your computer screen there, and or if you're on a mobile device, you can scroll down below the video and you can hit subscribe that way. It's a simple thing that helps out a whole lot, and we really appreciate it. So, Smith & Wesson 637 Performance Center. So, as I said before, if you've watched the channel at all, you know that I'm kind of a fan of small revolvers. There's just a lot of good things about them, and I'll get more into that. But, the simplicity and reliability of these things and the lightweight, easy to carry is just such a great thing. But we always like to start off with a little size comparison here. So, I'm going to take another small Smith here, a little 642 Airweight, just so you can see. Very similar. These are both obviously little small J frames, so they're just almost identical, just little small differences here and there. But if you tend to carry something different, like if you're a LCR fan, that's what your Ruger LCR is going to look like next to the little J frame 637 there. You can see you got a whole lot more grip, and it's a little bit wider, overall between the top and where the trigger guard is. And then, of course, if you carry something a little beefier, got my little Kimber here. This has been a really popular gun, but the little K6S here, you can see that's going to be quite a big, beefier, a little bit fatter through the grip there. And, of course, something like this is a lot heavier. This gun is way, way, way heavier than the other one. And the whole reason why I do this comparison, like I said, this has got nothing to do with the specifics of the firearm. It's got more to do with kind of a size comparison and kind of a bulk comparison for carrying. Because ultimately, everything we're looking at, we're considering as a contender for concealed carry. So we always want to factor that in. All right, we're going to jump right into the features here. But before we do, we want to take a moment to thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful example of the Smith & Wesson Performance Center 637. Don's Weaponry is a huge supporter of firearm safety and education, and we can't thank them enough. So, obviously revolvers don't have near as many features to go over as some of your semi-autos, but that, as I was saying in the beginning, is one of the things that makes these great. But let's just get down to basics here. So this is a 38 Special plus P. So you can run those hotter loads in there if you want to. But we're going to do our usual kind of top-down analysis here. So obviously you just have a basic, your sights here. You just have a basic built-in integral front sight. And of course you have a notch on the rear. So that's your sight picture. Now, I know some people that look at guns like this and they're critical of these little basic sights, but you have to understand something. You're talking about a firearm that has a barrel that's under 2 inches. So a firearm like this is definitely made to be used close up. You don't really have any hopes at really long range accuracy. Not for the kind of shooting you do whenever you're in a hurry. Obviously anyone can take their time and set up the perfect shot, but if you're in a hurry and your fine motor skills are out the window, you're probably not going to be using the sights anyway. You're just going to be trying to, take a shot, is what it would come down to. So this is a double action, single action. So you do have the hammer that you can actually pull back there to go into single action mode. We're going to talk more about this trigger in a minute, but of course you have your cylinder release right here. I really like the way Smith does these. They have aggressive texturing. It's pretty smooth, but it's a very positive feel. Like, I like revolvers that feel like they're made really well. You know, they don't rattle and shake. They don't feel like there's pieces going to fall out of them. I just think these J-frames, as a general rule, are just really well-made firearms. It does have a stainless steel barrel. It has a stainless steel cylinder. Your grip, this is a little custom wood grip. I'm not always a big fan of wooden grips because oftentimes I feel like that they're too slick. Like I'm going to, you know, not saying I'm going to lose my grip on the gun. I just don't feel the same kind of tactile feel I might get from some G10s or even from a rubber grip. But I have to say that this one, the way they've got the texturing placed, it actually makes a lot more sense, because when you grab it, your thumb is on the smoother part of the wood, but your fingers are in this texturing, and it's pretty aggressive. So it feels really good in the hand. It doesn't feel like it's going to slip out or do anything strange. So your trigger guard is like most trigger guards on these little J-frames, obviously. It's not real big. Now, this is one of the exceptions. I talk about not being a fan of small trigger guards, but on these revolvers, I don't think this is too bad. It's a little narrow this direction, but there's enough room for me to get my finger in there pretty easy. So the trigger, I'm going to talk about this more in the range section, but obviously this is a performance center with enhanced action. And what does that mean? Well, if you take a regular double action pull, say on the 642, and don't get me wrong, this is a great gun. I love the 642 airweight, and I love a lot of these other little J-frames, but my double action trigger pull, the feel, it really feels like it builds and builds up to a point and then it finally breaks. It's a little stiff, and on this performance center, the double action trigger pull, it's a lot smoother. It's like, I'm not having to increase the force as I'm getting to the top of the trigger pull here. It's a very smooth pull, and I love the break on it. And of course your single action, just a small bit of effort, it's a very, very smooth trigger. So it's definitely an improvement over the other little J-frames that I've shot as far as how it feels. And I'll talk about more when we do the range section. But once again, it's a revolver. It's very simple. Double action, single action, 38 plus P. It's got nice wooden grips. It seems to be made well. So it's got everything you need in a defensive revolver and nothing that you don't. So to me, the only real big difference between this revolver and, say, one of my other little Smiths, as I talked about, is definitely going to be the action. And they talk about this enhanced action as being one of the, highlights of the Performance Center. Well, so at the range, I've put a lot of rounds through this gun and through my other little J-frames as well. So just for basic break-in and kind of seeing how the gun performs, I use the Federal. This is 130 grain FMJ. Pretty reliable, pretty consistent range ammo, and no problems there. I actually found that the action on the 637 from my very first shots, because the first thing I did, normally if I had a gun like this and I'm testing it at the range, I would start off, in double action just to see what it felt like. But since this does have single action capability, I really wanted to see how good I could shoot this with this really nice trigger pull. And that single action trigger pull is so light and it breaks so smoothly that it'll catch you off guard when you apply the pressure, and I found that actually makes for better shots. If you're shooting rapidly, it's different, but if you're lining up a good shot and you get that unexpected trigger break, well, you're not anticipating or doing anything with the firearm to make your shots, go poorly. So I was really impressed with how well it shoots with this enhanced trigger. As far as defensive ammo, I've got lots of different types of ammo that I use, but I just kind of focused on the basics. I'm really a big fan of the Gold Dot spear. This is the Plus P, 135 grain. This is a really good round. And then just to see what it would do, I also tried some of this, the Hornady Critical Defense Light. I know several shooters that are they're either females or they're people that they like revolvers, but their hands, they're trying to take it easy with the amount of energy they feel in their hand. These light loads, this is 90 grain critical defense 38 special. These are pretty smooth. Like I said, they don't have obviously the same punch as that spear does, but as far as accuracy, I was getting some really crazy accurate shots out of that Hornady there. But pretty much anything you put in one of these, obviously, revolver, you just don't have a lot of the finicky nature, just based on the design. But for a 5-shot 38 plus P, I feel very confident with the way this gun performs. It's extremely accurate. The action is so much better. I mean, if you have shot a regular J-frame, if you shoot one of these and then you shoot this, you can really see the difference. And you almost have to shoot them both to know, because if you just pick this up for the first time without the other, you don't really know where they've made the improvements. But I can definitely say that the Performance Center action is as advertised. It's extremely easy to shoot. It's very accurate, and like most revolvers, it doesn't seem to care what kind of ammo you put in it. So what's it like to carry the Smith & Wesson 637 Performance Center? Well, in a word, easy. I've mentioned many times that I'm a fan of these little small revolvers. Now, some people, and I understand, there are people who absolutely do not feel comfortable with only 5 rounds. Although, they do make speed loaders, and I do keep a couple of speed loaders in my bag. But to me, I try to look at this from a standpoint of what's the most important aspect of having a concealed carry firearm. Well, to me, the most important aspect is something I actually carry. I know a lot of people that have firearms that are very fancy, these real elaborate setups, and most of the time when I see them in public, they're not carrying it. Why? It's too big, it's too bulky, it's too uncomfortable. I don't leave the house without something, and in many cases it ends up being one of these little 5-shot 38s or 357, just because I'm very comfortable with these. They're very easy for me to hide somewhere, and so they make it out of the house with me every time. Now, I tried a variety of holsters with these. Sometimes little basic stuff. This little Galco, they've been making these forever, and this is a super comfortable little holster. Has one big solid clip, leather, and you can have this. It covers pretty much all the gun except for the grip there, and you can wear these against the body without a whole lot of problems. I carried this one quite a bit, and I found it to be very nice. Now, some of you will sneer with this next one because I know some of you are anti-sticky holster, but there are some good things about a sticky. If you want to put it in your pocket, this is a great way to do it because your hammer's covered, your trigger guard is covered. You can take this, and like I wear slacks a lot, so my dress pants have big enough pockets. I can very easily have this in my pocket, and this will keep it from moving in the pocket, so I can draw right from my pocket with no problems. Of course, you'll need to take it out to reholster, but I can draw very easily from something like a sticky. If I'm dressed, well enough, if I have an inner shirt and an outer shirt, I tend to go more for custom leather. I think little revolvers can be carried extremely comfortable with, some kind of custom leather like this. There's several people I buy these kind of holsters from, but I think they're investments. But overall, I'm either going to carry in something like this, or honestly, it'll end up being in the pocket. I do this a lot. And the main reason I do this a lot is just because of how I dress. I've got big enough pockets, and these are so light and they're so comfortable that you can carry this in the pocket and not really know that you've got a gun on you. And that's kind of the idea, is you want to make it as comfortable experience as possible. But I carry one of these quite often. It's almost like I don't even have to separately evaluate the 637 for carry, because I carry either this gun or one exactly like it almost every day. So super comfortable for anyone. Of course, you could purse carry something like this too. Keep it in your briefcase. Just make sure you have something that safely covers the trigger guard, that type of thing. But extremely easy to carry and very comfortable to carry. Overall impressions of the Smith & Wesson 637 Performance Center. Well, as a person who is partial to these small revolvers in the first place, I think this is a very good entry. I've got a lot of these little small revolvers, whether the Smiths, I've got a lot of the Rugers, I've got some of the heavier ones too. I've got revolvers from just about every manufacturer in my collection, and I think they're great. But I think the small changes between something like this and something like the 637, they're things that you really notice. And at one time, I was pretty much a guy that would only carry a hammerless revolver for concealed carry, just so there's nothing to snag, trying to minimize question marks for safety. But the type of smoothness and accuracy you can get off the single action off of this makes me really okay with carrying this. And like I say, you just have to make sure you have the appropriate holster to cover that. If your hammer's covered and your trigger guard's completely covered, there's no reason you can't do that safely. And I do it all the time. So I think that it's made out of really good materials. I mean, when you think about it, they've done a good job with these. They're very clean designs. Smith has gotten really good at making these. But you get good quality materials. You have a nice grip. They've really done a lot with the action to make this a smooth shooting gun. I think that they're not priced out of the market. Something like this has an MSRP, I think, of around $620, and that's not uncommon. The store price can vary either side of that. You know how the gun market has been, so I'm not going to promise you what you'd find one for. And there are people who will say that that's out of my budget. I'm a $300-$400 gun guy, and I get that. I think that if you're going to carry a revolver, though, if that's what you're going to choose, you have to ask yourself, is it worth a little more money to have a revolver that is a lot lighter and shoots better, and it's going to be more comfortable to make sure I actually carry it? To me, a little more money is a no-brainer for something like that. But in any event, the 637 packs some really good features into a very small, light frame. It has a great trigger. And like many of these J frames, I'm definitely impressed, and I would highly recommend it whether you're a new shooter or whether you've been carrying guns your entire life. You can't go wrong. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. We appreciate you being with us as always. Be back very soon with another video for you. So until that time, everyone, please stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.